Okay. So we're on Mums on the Glow. So just waiting for some of you to join us. So we've got the lovely Clarice here with us.
Hello.
So let's see if anyone joins us. We'll give it a few minutes
Mm-hmm.
and then see if anyone's joining us. Okay. Okay. I'm just looking on Facebook to see if anyone's. We've got someone joining us. Hello, hello. If you're joining us, if you go to streamyard.com/Facebook, then we'd be able to see who you are and your comments. That'd be brilliant. We've got some more people joining us. Welcome, welcome. Okay. So we're going to make a start because the lovely Clarice is here and she's a very busy woman. So I don't want to take up much of her time. So thank you for all those people who are joining us, those who are coming in. Thank you so much for being part of this conversation. So let's welcome the lovely Clarice to the conversation. Now, Clarice is a mom and a wife and a mom of 4 children. And as she puts it, 2 adorable guys on earth and 2 in heaven. So that's wonderful. And Clarice is a data validator by profession and an awesome autism ambassador advocate as well. So thank you, Clarice, for joining us in this conversation today and taking the time. And before I forget, she's also the founder of CAN, C-A-N, capital letters, Abilities Foundation UK, which is a registered autism charity. Okay, we'll talk about that in a little bit. So, Clarice, you've shared a bit of your story with me prior to this interview. So, tell us, who is Clarice? And in short, what is your story?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in and thank you for having me here, Nikki. It's really a pleasure and I'm honored to be a guest on the show today. Yeah, like you like as you rightly said, my name is Clarice Angafor or AC as I go on Facebook. I'm a mom. Just a little bit of a correction. I'm a mom of 5. Um,
Oh, wow.
yeah, a mom of 5. Then two in heaven, 3 on earth, and then with a little 5 months old grandson.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm a wife. I'm a lady of so many things. I've ventured into so many things, which are all based on my experience. And as I said, my experiences, I've realized that each experience that is lived has the power to transform lives. It is worthy and it is valuable. That said, I see myself as the leading voice of hope and empowerment to individuals or families who are facing challenging or life complex issues, including special educational needs. Then, through my platforms, I aim to educate, to empower, to inspire, and give hope to people who have faced these challenges, and also to let them know that they can share their stories, they can share their experiences, knowing that there is someone out there who will hear them and they will not be judged or stigmatized. So, yeah, so in a nutshell, that's me. So and everything that I do or that I'm passionate about is centered around my personal experiences, be it autism awareness, which I am an autism ambassador, be it pregnancy and infant loss and advocate, which I have had an experience in, and also as a mental health advocate. So I usually say experience is what you gain when you didn't get what you wanted. So in a nutshell, that's me. So we may get to know more about these experiences as we discuss.
Yeah,
Thank you, Nikki.
fantastic. That's lovely. That's lovely. And I love that quote with the experience part. That's,
Yeah.
that's really, really true about that. So
Hmm.
tell us, you've got two lovelies in heaven,
Yeah.
and you've been through so much, the traumatic loss.
Yeah.
What does grief look like to you?
Um, grief to me, grief is crazy. grief, grief. It comes in waves, as some people
Mm,
will put it. Grief is grieving. Usually, you're in a very dark place, in a very, very dark, bitter, angry area that sometimes you don't actually know when you will ever get out of that dark hole. Yeah,
mm,
it comes in various forms. It comes in various stages. You go through this roller coaster of emotions. At times, you may even wonder whether you are normal, but at the
mm,
same time, you are, but it's just because you're going through a traumatic experience. Because grief goes with love. Because if you don't love, or if you didn't love, you won't be able to grieve someone. So usually I say grief and love go together. So how much you loved will equal to how much you will grieve the loss of that person. And when we are talking about the loss here, we are talking about the physical loss, we are talking about death, because grief is in various aspects. You can actually grieve someone who is still alive.
mm,
You can grieve a divorce, you can grieve a separation from a long-term friendship, you can grieve a disability, you can grieve a child that has been diagnosed maybe with autism or with a life-threatening illness. You can grieve the loss of a job or the loss of a huge amount of money. But in for the sake of our discussion, we are talking about grief in terms of the physical loss, that is the death of a loved one. It may be a child, it may be an adult. As I've come to realize, loss is loss. It doesn't matter whether the person was 1 day old or 100 years old. That's the way I define loss. Other people may see it different, but the pain is really the same, and that vacuum that the loss of your loved one leaves behind, it takes time to close. It never closes completely, as I can
mm.
say. But with time, as you get used to the emotions, as you get used to the process, and you learn to accept that it's your new reality, and then the pain lessens. As they say, healing comes with time when you are grieving.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Very, very, very poignant. What were the stages in your experience of your grieving process?
Okay. Just before I dive into the stages,
Mhm,
with the loss of my baby, yeah,
mhm,
that's when I actually discovered that I had been grieving without really knowing. For your information, or those who are watching, I don't know if anyone has had this experience. Sometimes you may be grieving without actually knowing that you are grieving. So yeah,
mhm.
so it was actually, so from my experience with the loss, sometimes I always say it had to take the physical loss of my baby to realize that I had been grieving. I had been going through this process of grief. But because loved ones, because close ones, because friends never really knew what was happening, they put it down to anger problems, put down to mood swings. But, and as I said initially, that you can grieve a child who is there, you can grieve a disability. Having a
Mm.
child who is autistic and who was born extremely premature, you also have to grieve. You have to go through those stages. You
Yeah.
grieve the child you would have had at full term, and then you also have to grieve the child you thought you were going to have without a disability.
Mm.
But that I never knew. And before having my boy, who is growing up now with autism and other forms of disability, I had had an early miscarriage. But because I never received any help, no one ever talked about it. So it was kind of suppressed. And suppressed grief as well may cause long term problems. So when I finally lost my little boy in September 2017, he was also born premature. Unfortunately, he lived just for 1 hour 20 minutes. So it was in his loss that I realized that I had been grieving, because the emotions that I was experiencing during that period were similar to emotions I have been experiencing in the past. But I myself, I never knew. I thought maybe it
Yeah.
was just a lot of stress. You know how it feels like when you have a child with extra needs. It's an ongoing process. Sometimes sleepless nights, sometimes you literally sleep in the hospital. So I thought it was an accumulation of all of those. Yes, that was an addition, but it was part of it. So when this baby came and lived for 1 hour 20 minutes and died, sometimes when you are in the middle of it, in the heat of that moment, you think you are so strong. It happens when everything is finished, when you've already done the funeral, buried the baby, and then you are home in your silent corner. That's when everything starts hitting you. So
Mm.
to talk about the stages of grief, I am going to reference Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who,
Mhm.
yeah, she had this five she has these 5 stages of grief in her book on life. I think it's on life and death. So they are in 5 stages. You have denial, you have anger, you have bargaining, you have depression, and you have acceptance. There's an argument from some schools of thought that the way she talks about them, it seems like grief is in a linear pattern, or it seems when you're going through those emotions, they go from one stage to another. No, these are stages which you go through. They can go in haphazard manner. Some people actually start with acceptance, which is kind of the last stage. Some start with denial, some start with anger, but no two people grieve the same. But there are some similar emotions that we go through. So with denial, when it happens to you, the first thing that comes to your mind, no, it cannot be. Why should this be happening to me? It cannot be my baby. So you are there, you are denying, even though you have proofs. He's right there in your arms, but you are sitting there wishing that he could just start breathing again. You're
Yeah.
just wishing that the doctors could tell you something different. And then going again to the second stage of anger, that anger comes in obviously when you are not happy with an incident or with something that's happening. You get angry sometimes with the person. Why didn't you fight? Why didn't you fight to stay? You get angry with yourself for, because you start feeling guilty. What is it that I did that I didn't do? Or maybe I could have gone to the hospital if I started noticing
Mhm.
some changes. And then maybe during that period or the period leading up to the loss of the child, maybe a few things may have happened. You may have fallen out with your close ones, or you may have had an argument, or you may have gone through a period of stress that you thought maybe you didn't have enough support or enough help from someone. At that point, you put everything now on the loss of the baby, that all these things that happened, probably they are the ones which have led to the loss of this baby. You getting angry with everything, everyone. I got angry with basically everyone,
Mhm.
everything, including God. Yeah,
Mm.
that's how it is. And it's at that point where if you are a Christian or you are a believer in God, you start losing faith in God, because you question him a lot. Because at some point you tell him, if you are the God that you say you are, and you don't you want to make people to be happy. You give this precious gift and then you take it back. So why do you allow people to suffer? So we ask those questions. You feel guilty and then you blame others as well. You blame yourself, you blame others around you, you blame God and everything. And then from anger now, you move on to bargaining. At that point, okay, you started, you're a little bit accepting the situation gradually, but you're at that point where you say, okay, God, if you just reverse this, if you just make this feel, if you just reverse this situation, I'm going to praise you, I'm going to worship you for the rest of my life, I'm going to be happy,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be stressed, I'm going to do everything that you ask of me. So that's what you start bargaining now.
Yes. Yes.
Like, yeah,
I
it's a
know.
very, yeah, it's a very dreadful situation. And then as you are bargaining now, you are gradually moving to it feels a little bit like you are accepting your situation, but as you are
Mm,
bargaining, you are actually leading down to depression because of all the
mm,
other the other emotions we've been going through. A lot of anger, a lot of blame, sadness, and denial. It plays on your mental health as well. And when you're going through all those emotions, if you are not careful, you forget the basic things that you have to do. You can actually forget those who are around you if you concentrate too much on how you feel, the emotions attached to the grief. And then you can
mm,
actually forget about your own self-care, because
yeah.
you are so angry, you are so sad, and you don't know when you ever go out of this. Sometimes that's when depression hits. Yeah, so you start losing interest
Mm,
in all those pleasurable things you used to do. You start losing interest in activities, in friends, even close people around you. Nothing around you means anything. Yeah, I've reached a point where at there was nothing worse than the loss of a child. There was nothing else. Any loss was, to me, then was nothing as compared to losing a child, holding your baby in your arms and seeing him, like you hold him physically and he breathes and
yeah.
he stops breathing in your hands. And the period leading up to him dying, it was quite traumatizing, because my waters had broken, I think, for 4 days, and he was almost coming out. So it was quite traumatizing. So all those events can actually, they not can, they play a lot on your mental health as well. That's why someone said that the loss of a loved one is like a brain surgery. So
Mm,
yeah, yeah, because it can either go wrong or it can go well, depending
mhm,
on how it's handled. And then going through depression, now you are gradually accepting, because at that point you've seen how much you are losing people around you, friends around
mm,
you, even your own self. And at some point you have to start asking, am I going to stay here feeling the way I am feeling sorry for myself, feeling sorry for everything that has happened, or am I going to look for a way to bounce back? And that is when I started gradually heading towards acceptance.
yeah.
Yeah, because acceptance now is like you are now accepting your reality, that okay, this baby, or if it's a husband or a sister or brother, you start accepting now that okay, now this has happened. I have to accept it, knowing that I will live my life without him or her,
Mm,
knowing that I will make changes. And when you've lost someone, things will never be the same. Even
mm,
if that person didn't live with you long, things will never still be the same. Because if it's a little baby, you still sit sometimes and you are imagining, you know that you will never hear footsteps running down the stairs.
mm,
You know that he or she will never call you mom. You know that you'll never celebrate the first birthday or a 50th birthday for your child. All those things, all those dreams, aspirations or wishes that you had for your baby, or if it's an older person, the memories you had with that person, you are wishing that I could relive those moments again. You're wishing we could just laugh and
Mm,
talk and sing and dance and eat together, cook together, whatever thing you used to do with your person. But the stage of acceptance is very, very necessary, because that's when you kind of take hold of yourself. You are saying, now this is me, this is the situation.
mhm,
I have to accept that this is what I am in now, not what I wished I was going to be in or to have. Now this baby is no longer here. I can still adjust my life and live a purposeful life without my baby, being happy, knowing that his memories will live on. Sometimes people say you have to move on. To me, I see that losing a loved one is not getting rid of that person. You
mhm,
move forward with the grief. You move forward the memories of your loved ones. So you make adjustments around the place, around the situation, knowing that you'll never see this person, but
mhm.
these are the fond memories I had with the
Yeah.
person, and this is how I am going to live the rest of my life. And it's at that point that you've now said to yourself, okay, sadness aside, there are days where those emotions will still
Yes.
come, like you said in the message, that you were wondering if sad memories will come up. Sad memories will always be there. They will always
Mhm.
crop up. A tear will drop. But the thing is, what do you do when those moments come up? What do you do with them? Like they said, grief comes in waves. Sometimes you have triggers. It may just be a
Yes.
bouquet of flowers in in an aisle in Tesco, which happened
Mhm.
to me, and I stood there in the middle of the shop and I burst out in tears. I cried.
Yes.
Yes, sometimes you just
Yeah.
need to shed those tears in order to feel okay. But the essential thing is that do not allow yourself to stay in that moment, to remain there. As I mentioned, the stages of grief, they seem to be flowing in a linear pattern, but they don't, because you can still reach that acceptance stage, and another day comes, maybe with a trigger, you are at the
Yeah.
denial stage again. So it's like a vicious cycle. But
Mhm.
whatever you do when you're going through grief, the most essential thing is that be careful. Just make sure you don't get stuck at any one stage, because it may have long-term effect. It may have long
Yes.
traumatizing or mental health effects on you. Losing a loved one is traumatic enough.
Yes.
Hmm. Yeah.
Fine. So how did this impact on the family, the rest of the family, the loss
Yes,
of the
it has
lovely
a lot
baby?
of, yeah, it has a lot of impact on the family. It's one of the impacts is if family members, obviously no two people grieve the same, so
Mm,
they will grieve differently. And like I said, grief moves hand in hand with love, right?
mm,
So how much you feel or how much you felt for that person will determine how much you may grieve that person. Unfortunately, mothers tend to feel more when the baby or when they've lost the child.
yes.
Dads do feel the same. They do grieve. The only difference is that they grieve in their own way. Us,
Mm,
we grieve with a lot of, we show a lot of emotions. It may be crying, it may be maybe screaming or whatever. But sometimes they grieve in silence. They don't talk, but
mm,
they are struggling within.
yes.
And yes, and another thing is that the men, they are grieving two people. They are grieving the loss of their child, and they are grieving the new wife.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
the new being in the name of a wife that they'll have to deal with, because like I said, grief changes people. It can either change you for good or it can change you for bad. Yes.
Yeah.
And the siblings as well, it affects them quite a lot. Yes. So the most essential thing is trying very hard to grieve as a family, and then accepting each and everyone's method of grieving. Yeah, and appreciating that each and every one of us is aching all of us, we are not happy because of the loss of a baby. Grandparents, they also grieve. They are grieving their
Mm.
grandchild, they are grieving their daughter or their son. That
Yes.
is, they are grieving the pain that their son is going through or that their daughter is going through. And they are also grieving as grandparents. So even aunties. Yeah, so it
Yeah.
affects, grief affects the entire family, but at different levels. It affects
Yes.
people differently. You may lose a child or a brother or a sister, and then some people see death as that is the end of everything, that's the end of life. The two of us, we may be siblings that we've lost our parent. The next day you'll be bouncing back to work, right? And then I will want to stay at home because I've lost my parent, and
Mm.
you want to go back to work. That is your own way of grieving. You want to go to work and just to have that fresh air out of the house, but I want to stay at home. Those are two different ways of grieving,
Yeah.
and each and every one of us, we really have to accept and appreciate everyone's journey in grief.
Mm.
And then another thing to say is that there's no right or wrong way to grieve as far as individuals are concerned. However, there is a healthy and there is an unhealthy way of grieving as well.
Mhm. Great. We'll come back to that with a healthy way of grieving because I'd like to find out more about that.
Mhm.
But what support systems were available to you during
Yes.
that time of
Uh,
your loss?
yeah. During that period, do not underestimate any support that you have. Yes, there are people, well meaning people, friends, families, including the medical staff who are right there. They are ready, willing to give you the support. I received a lot of support right from when I was in the hospital because I was in there for 3 weeks. So
Mm.
I had health complications, so
Right.
I had to have a blood transfusion over 3 weeks. So I had to stay in. Yes, they were quite amazing. The medical staff. I mean,
Yeah.
right from the first time that I went in, that you are being checked regularly. Yeah, once in a while you may have some odd people who seem to behave, who seem to think that you losing a child, you become catching. They come too close
Mm.
to you. They may it may also they may get
Yeah.
contaminated. Yeah, those are just a few people who, because sometimes when people haven't experienced something, they can't really have a better understanding of that particular situation. As far as friends are concerned, yes, I had an amazing group of friends, those who understood what it means
Mm.
to lose a baby. Yes, there were those who have had the experience in the past who, because of the painful situation, and because when it happens to you now and it happens to someone in the long run, when it happens to another person, it brings back their own memories.
Mm.
And if you had not really, the way I see it is, if you had not really worked on your grief, you will always tend to avoid someone who is going through a similar experience like you. So I also
Mm.
had such people. And then family, my family back home, yes, they were amazing because they will call and check. And my immediate family, my boys, my husband, yes, they were quite there supporting because I was in the hospital helpless. So I basically couldn't do anything.
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
So during when you are grieving the loss of a loved one, do not minimize any support that comes your way. I mean, when we go into coping mechanism, we are also going to talk about support from friends and families and how
Mhm.
it comes about. Yeah.
And so you mentioned earlier
And then,
the healthy grief. Mhm.
yeah, and in addition to that, while mentioning the stages of grief, and
Mm.
because depression is part of it, and you
Yeah.
may get hit at some point, seek help, seek professional help.
Yeah.
These are some of the coping mechanisms I'm already going
Yes,
into. Yeah, so there's also support from your GP as well.
that's it.
Mhm.
And in terms of the healthy way of grieving, what does that look like?
It's basically what I can actually say. A healthy way of grieving is giving yourself time to understand exactly what has happened,
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to really understand, and understanding is going through those emotions, those roller coaster of emotions, of because everything, you're overwhelmed, you're angry, you are in denial, you are sad, everything negative is on you. It's
Mm.
learning how to manage those emotions, because you can lose yourself, and then in the process you can lose friends and even
Mm.
family members. So it's really giving yourself time to understand what is happening to you, why you are going through this period, and how you can handle it. And that is looking for ways now to cope, looking for ways to help yourself, because the essential thing is you coming out as a better person after after you've gone through grief, not coming out as a bad, or as someone whom people will not want to see. You will not be,
Mm.
because it can easily lead to that, especially when you dwell so much in the maybe the denial and the anger stage, because sometimes you can easily get angry with a friend or someone who didn't call you, who didn't speak to you during that time, someone who was close to you, and then the person seems to have distanced themselves during that
Mm.
period. And you know, if he or she was the one, you would have done better, you would have helped him or her. It's very easy to get really worked up or upset
Yeah.
with people
Yeah.
during that time. Yeah.
I was just looking at the comments now. Somebody said earlier about, when you mentioned the quote about the experience, someone said that they loved that.
Mm-hmm.
Can't see who it is. And
Okay.
then someone said earlier that they can relate to your experiences.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that,
Okay.
I'm glad it
Mhm.
someone relates. Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. And I know we've got a few mothers on here who've suffered the loss of a child and a
Okay.
stillborn.
Yeah.
So,
I would also like to know how they went through, how it felt like to 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 them.
yeah.
There are women who have had stillbirth babies at full term.
Mm.
Um, there are women who have had miscarriages, maybe at an early stage, like few weeks. Like the first one of mine was 8 weeks. To me, that's still, it's a child that has
Yeah.
been lost. I know
Yeah.
sometimes people minimize the the stage at which you were, this, yeah, a period
Mm.
of gestation at which you were before you lose your child. Losing a child is a child. Once you've
Yeah.
seen that test, once you've held that test in your hand and it says positive, that's already a baby that is growing inside you. That's already alive. And
Mm.
from the moment of conception, as a mom, you are already unconsciously or consciously preparing, making plans, making adjustments for that new being who is
Yeah.
growing within you. And then it hits you so bad when suddenly everything is never going to be the same. You're never going to see that little bundle of joy you were expecting, you were waiting anxiously to have. So it really hurts.
Yes.
So yeah,
Mm.
and I always say that every little life matters, whether it
Very true.
was 1 day, 1 week gestation, or 42 weeks gestation, it was a life.
Mm.
Whether a woman gave birth to a stillbirth baby, that baby lived, because before that baby stopped breathing, just before he or she was born, that baby lived in you. That baby
Yes.
was breathing, that baby was active. So it is alive.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
So if anyone's watching, I know we've got someone, online at the moment. If
Hmm.
there's anything you'd like to share in the comments, please feel free. Any questions you'd like to ask Clarice, feel free to ask.
Yeah.
So with loss, whether it be the loss of a child or other family member or close friend, how do you cope with that sort of loss? Because I know some people were asking about the loss of a mom or a dad.
Hmm.
It could be a sister or friend, any family members, or
Yeah.
even a very close friend. How do
Yes.
you cope, or are there any suggestions that you can give?
Yeah, I will speak more based on my experience.
Yes,
Some of them may be similar. I haven't had the experience to lose a dad or a mommy yet,
yes,
or a sister, but I've lost a close friend who died in 2006. I still feel the pain. Yeah,
Yeah.
right up to till today. So it still aches because he was a very close someone to the family. So
Mm.
and then I was hit with the loss of a baby. So to me, that's the
Yeah.
greatest loss
Yeah.
I've ever felt. And no matter what happens, sometimes it still hurts, but because it hurts so much, and at the same time, you don't want to stay in that place where you are constantly going to be angry or to be sad, because you know
Mm.
how that can play on your mental health, on
Yeah.
your physical health, and the rest of the family. You have to strive to be at the position where you accept your reality. So which means how to cope, it to me, I basically had to give myself to go through those emotions,
Yes.
the roller coaster of emotions, to really understand what they were, and how they affect you, or how they affected me, or how they were affecting the rest of the family. Because as a mom, once you are not happy, the rest of the family is not happy. Once you are not physically or mentally strong, you can't support the rest of the family
Mm.
properly. So it affects you as well. So what I would like to say is, whoever has gone through any form of grief before, it's absolutely necessary to give yourself time. Do not beat yourself up, or do not let others downplay your grief. Because from
Yes.
where I come from Africa, it's very common for people to tell you, "Oh, that was just a child. Thank God he did not live for long. So you are still young. You can still go ahead and have other babies. No child will ever replace another."
Mm.
Yes, and then because when you are in in another situation where people do not talk about what happened, people do not want you to talk about your experience, your grief can be suppressed. So what I advise is, do not allow your grief to be suppressed, because suppressed grief will come back to you some years. It may be 10 years, it may be 20 years, but it will hit you back. So
Mm.
so it's essential to deal with grief once and for all. It may come back at a certain point, maybe because of triggers, or
Yes.
during anniversaries. Yes, during that period, you have all those memories. It comes, but it's coming back to a person now who is stronger than
Yes.
was before. It's coming back to a person who knows now that, yes, I accepted my reality. Yes, I can sit now and I can shed a tear. But I know that after shedding this tear, I'll wipe my tears off. I'll make
Mm.
my makeup. I can
Yes.
actually go and do my manicure, my pedicure, knowing that
Yes.
there is someone up there, knowing that I am keeping the memories of this baby. And then another thing to do to cope is, do not refuse professional help.
Yes.
Seek therapy. Go to your GP when you are struggling. There reached a point where, here normally a GP will not just call you at random
Mm.
without an appointment. You know that there was a time where my GP called me 3 times in a week to talk to me, because he
Wow.
said yes. Because I, I I think because I had been calling the delivery suite quite often. I want to speak to someone, but when someone comes on the phone, I basically don't have anything. So it still felt like, if I speak with someone who actually experienced what happened, they may be able to tell me something
Yes.
different. So they
Yes.
actually had to refer me to speak to my GP, and that we think she is struggling. So my GP will call me 3 times in a week. I know we cannot make you go on medication, but it's essential. It can help you during this period, because I was already at that depressive stage where you get up in the morning, you drop off the kids at school, come back to the house, you close your curtains and lie on the sofa still in your pajama, or go back
Mm.
into your pajama. That's not healthy at all. That can actually have long-term effects. And it was picked up, and my GP kind of persuaded me. So why I'm saying this is that, seek help when you
Mm.
think you are struggling. Seek professional help. Even if yeah, I know people are so scared about mental health or depression or things like that. Antidepressants, they do have their side effects, but they can help you for a short period of time.
Mm. Yeah.
Yes. And then in addition to that, you can still you can still have therapy, counseling services, talk therapy. It helps. And then exercises, going out, just going out of your normal environment. It may be
Mm.
just for 30 minutes walk. It absolutely helps. Or exercises. Then, and yeah, I've talked about going, accepting help from your GP, and then
Yes.
joining either online groups or groups of people, parents or other women who have had similar experiences. Because in there, you know that when you say this, there's someone there who gets it. You don't want to
Yes.
join a group where people will make you feel worse than you already are. You don't
Mm.
want to join a group where when you start narrating the story of your baby and they tell you, oh, that was just a little baby,
Yes.
well, you don't even know whether if that baby lived, he would have had long-term disabilities. You don't want to hear that, do you? So you want to join a group of people who will tell you, hold your hand and tell you, I understand, I
Yes.
have been there. If you need my help, based on my experience, I can talk to you, I can help you. Those are the type of people you want to associate
Mm.
yourself with during that time, and be open to receive practical help from friends, from family members. If someone calls you and says, can I come around? I'll come around and do this or that. If you need that help, say yes to it.
Yes.
It's not a burden. You're not being a burden on someone. If they offer, or not, instead of waiting for someone to offer, you can actually call your friends, you can actually call your family if they are around you, and ask them if they can help you, maybe with the children, if you have other children. Those are
Mm.
some of the practical things, some coping mechanisms you can. If during that period you are viable enough, maybe you have some extra money, you can actually go on a holiday or on a retreat if you're a Christian, just to
Mm.
go yeah, for a few days or a
Yes.
week. It all depends on your circumstances. Another thing that helped me was, I'd never been a fan of flowers, of roses, of bouquets, things like that. But friends used to visit me and they bring flowers. I was like, oh God, what am I going to do with these flowers? A thought came up, you can take these flowers to the cemetery and
Mm.
decorate the baby's grave with. It absolutely helped. And I used to visit there quite often. Some people will not do it that way because there are some people, once they've buried the baby, once they've kept the baby wherever they kept the baby, that is it. They forget about it. But
Yeah.
I as an individual, I discovered that visiting with flowers was really, really helpful, and I absolutely learned how to practice self-care.
Yes. That is
Yes.
fantastic. And I
Yeah.
love the way you've just reframed it with the flowers. It's sort of like a trigger for you, but you
Yeah.
reframed it in the sense that, hold on, I can do something with these flowers. I can
Yeah.
put it,
Hmm.
where the baby is.
Yeah.
So that's
Hmm.
fantastic way of
Hmm.
looking at
I have a
it.
collage of pictures and flowers in my hands over 3 years. So
Wow. Wow.
yeah, at first the flower thing started with a trigger where I burst out crying in the flower aisle in Tesco. Then
Yes.
eventually it led to love. And then there is this thing, there's also, if you love music, you can listen more music, you can sing songs. Maybe if your loved one was someone who loved music, you can also play their songs. Sometimes you can play the songs that you shed a tear, but you play the songs you remember, you have memories. Yeah, music can also
Yes.
be therapeutic. And then
Yes.
if you are a Christian, prayers as well really help. But I discovered that there is this thing, there is resilience as well. Yes, resilience may be due to your past experience. It can actually determine how you handle challenges in your life. So how resilient you are will also depend how you will go through your grief period.
That's exactly it. Yes,
Mm,
resilience.
yeah.
Yes. And we've just had someone say, I find the assumption that you may have done something terrible spiritually, hence this strategy is such an error of thought. And I've heard this, with the spiritual element. If something happens to you that, you may have done something wrong in your life, to
Yeah.
deserve this.
Yes,
So,
I got that. I got that, especially with some of these pastors and things like that who seem to believe that anything good, God cannot get rid of it. So they seem to believe that once your child comes and dies, was because the child was cursed or something. Yeah, some people seem to associate you losing a child to something spiritual, and that you may have done something in the past, either with your own self or with your womb, or you may have done something really bad that God is using it to punish you. God doesn't punish people that way. God is a forgiving God, and He doesn't punish individuals.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's true. That's
Hmm.
very true. And I think the same person mentioned also guilt and blaming yourself can be emotionally draining.
Yes. Unfortunately, there are times, because this comes in when you start asking yourself questions. What did I do wrong? Where did I go wrong?
Mm,
Is there something that I did that I could have done? Is that, yeah, then you start looking. One of the things which I did was I actually brought up all my experiences, right? My first baby, my boy, who was born premature with a disability, and then this one now, he dead. I was like, what did I do wrong? Who did I
yeah,
offend?
yeah,
Yeah, so I became a little bit superstitious. I was like, who
yeah,
did I offend? And then I called my sister back home and I said, you guys, everyone should look within themselves. If I had offended anyone, you just tell me so that I should start
yeah.
making amends.
I know.
Yeah, so I actually said, you speak to my parents, speak to dad and mom. Then I said, you go to my husband's compound and speak to his family and ask them, while I was staying in their family house, did I offend anyone there? Did I do anything wrong to anyone? Unknowingly, unconsciously, that they have done something about it now and it's
Yeah,
affecting me this way. Let the person just come forward and tell me so that I should make amends, because I'm ready to make amends.
yes.
Yes, during that period, you can actually, if you're not careful, you can go. I don't know if it's insane, or because your thoughts, your emotions, they are shattered, they are all over the
Mm,
place. Yes, because you are in that dark place. You don't actually, somebody tells you there's light at the end of the tunnel tomorrow. Somebody tells you tomorrow you are going to smile. You will say, smile me? I'll never. Who would have said that I'll be sitting here talking about this similar experience and then
yeah,
laughing? Yeah. But whatever you do during your grief period, um, position yourself in a place where you'll be heading towards recovery, towards becoming a better person than who you were before. One of the things I've discovered is grief really forces you to focus. Grief forces you to reflect. It takes you back. It makes you to look within yourself to
yeah,
really find out who that person is. And another thing is, you I at first I never used to believe in whatever thing that happens to you happens for a purpose, because when you are in the midst of that thing, you don't see the purpose, you don't see the bigger picture, you can't see why this sad thing is happening to me right now. But if you give yourself time and understand what you are going through, and you look at the bigger picture, you will be able to pick out one or two good things from that tragedy that has happened to you. And that's how I came with, every experience lived is worthy, it's valuable, and it has the power to transform your life. No matter how sad that experience was, there will be one good thing. It may not be good directly, that losing my child was the best thing that ever happened to
mm,
me, but as a result of losing my child, this is the new me I've become. Being able to help other people, being able to use my experiences to educate, to empower, to inspire, and give hope to those who are facing similar circumstances. Because, like I said initially, this quote, I've forgotten the name of the person. Experience is what you gain when you didn't get what you wanted. So
Yes,
yeah.
fantastic.
Mhm.
And looking at our topic now, bouncing back from loss of a loved one,
Yeah.
how do you bounce back from grief? How can you, help someone out there, someone who's listening now, to
Yeah.
really bounce back
Okay.
after the grieving process,
Mhm.
the different stages? How do you bounce back and become that person that you're meant to be?
Mhm. Like I've said, with the coping mechanisms, when you start looking to the coping mechanisms, or what to do to feel better, or to go through that period, which means you're already heading towards a positive you, a better you, because
Yes,
you're looking of ways to better yourself, to feel better, because it's draining, like someone said.
yes,
It's, yeah, it's emotionally draining. So you also have to work on your own self and see whether you could put yourself in a position where you can see whatever happened to you in a different dimension. So with
yeah.
my experiences, one of the things I said to myself, because one thing that I kept, when I stopped blaming God, the next thing I started doing was I started asking him, what do you want me to do with these experiences?
Mm,
Yes, I
yeah,
said, I've lost the first baby before. I've had a baby premature. He's growing up with a disability. Now I have had another one who has sadly died. God,
yeah.
is there something you are telling me and I can't see it now? Show me the way. As a Christian, I had to do this. I had to ask him that there must be something which you have to show me. And
Yeah.
now I said to myself, I am going to use my experiences to help someone who has been in a similar situation, because I know I am not the only one, and certainly I will not be the only one who has experienced this. I also said to myself, I am not going to let my emotions empower me, overshadow me in such a way that if it happens to another person, I won't abandon that person. I
Yes.
will go to that person. I will talk to that person. I will let the person know that I am coming to you from the same position. I've been in that same position. And no matter how many years you've lost a loved one, it still aches, it still pains at some point. Like I said, the pain lessens, but it's always there. The memories are always there. So I aim to be at a position where I can help others. And
Yes.
it's basically what I am doing now, like during this baby loss awareness week. And this topic we are discussing today, because we are in October, and
Yes.
October is pregnancy and infant loss awareness month. So it was necessary we bring up this we bring up this topic, Nikki, because
Yes.
not
Yes.
everyone bounces back in a positive way.
Mm,
Yes, it affects people, and some people it ends up affecting families, right up to the extent of people separating, people having divorces
yes.
because of the tragic loss. Yes, but
Mm,
one of the things, how I bounced back, I went through all those emotions, and
yes.
I also worked on myself. Like I said, grief forces you to reflect. It makes you maybe to focus on whatever thing you are doing. It makes you to think really hard. When I sit now, before I say anything, I have to think, is it helpful? Is it
Mm,
important? How is it going to leave the other person feeling? Is it going to make the other person sad or happy? So I'm basically using my experiences now to help others who are currently facing the tragedies, or who have in the past and didn't have the chance to talk to someone and still need help now.
absolutely. And from your mess comes your message. And
Yes,
you certainly got your message on point at the moment.
Yes.
Someone just looking at one of the comments, or two of them, I appreciate your courage. Thank you for your openness.
Thank you.
And put God first in everything, and He will guide you through these horrible times.
Exactly.
Thank you so
And
much for your comments.
yeah, and I always say it's written somewhere in my book that when God puts you in a situation, He will never abandon you there. He
Yeah.
gives you a roadmap, and that roadmap is made up of strength. He gives you that strength, He gives you the courage, He gives you endurance, even that resilience. It doesn't come from you,
Mm,
it comes from Him. He gives you
yeah.
that ability to be able to accept that situation. Sometimes people say God doesn't give you what you cannot handle. To me, making that statement to someone who is grieving,
Mm,
it's such because you actually look at it. So God decided to take my baby because He knows I can handle it.
mm,
So yeah, but what I always say is God helps us handle what He has given us,
yes.
and how He helps us. He gives us that roadmap to use. And yeah, because at times grief can be like driving into a country, a foreign country you've never been before, without a roadmap, and at some point you're just turning in circles because you don't know whether to go right, left, front, or back. You're just turning around and around.
Mm,
That's what it happens to you when you're grieving and when you don't know what to do. Yeah.
that's fantastic. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. And
Welcome.
with all this, what memories do you treasure with all that's said and done?
Yeah, one of my you mean as far as my little boy is concerned, yeah.
Yes,
If I could have like an imprint, most often when I look down on my chest,
yes,
I see it, I feel I can actually literally draw him lying here. This are,
yeah,
unfortunately, they are sad memories and they are good
yes,
memories. So I will always have his imprints here, lying here, and
yes,
his name to me
yes.
is the sexiest name I've ever known.
Yes. Oh, that's beautiful,
Mhm,
Clarice.
mhm.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
now, out of all this, and as you've mentioned, from you've at your story, from everything you've been through, and somebody said, "Wow, imprint, that's beautiful.
yeah.
That's good. Yes,
Thank
that's
you.
that's a great way of looking at it.
Yeah.
You've got this wonderful story to share. Now you've got this new book telling us all about what you've been through
Hmm.
and your aspirations, and I'm sure your dreams in there as well.
Yeah.
Tell us more about this book that's coming out soon.
Okay. So this book, the title is Grief, Greed. So basically, I had always planned that I was going to write a book, but it was going to be more of autism experiences with my
Yeah.
son. But apparently, this young guy came in a very powerful way, and he was more powerful than any other person. And then I had to write a book. Yes, one of the things I forgot to say that you can do during grief is journaling.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. That's very
Yeah.
true. Journaling, very
Mhm.
cathartic. And you writing that book as well is very cathartic for you, pouring it all
Yes.
out,
Mhm.
sharing your story.
Yeah.
Yes. It's very
So
healing.
it is. Journaling is very therapeutic because you are kind of talking to someone who will not judge you, who will not
Yeah.
question you, not question whatever raw emotions you've written in there. So that's what I did. I was basically just writing about everyone, anyone, anything that are around that period. And then later, that when I finished writing, I later on said, all this bulk of information, what am I going to do with it? So that's how it came out to from grief to greed.
Mhm.
Like I said, when you're going through grief, you have to be aiming towards getting to that point where you are a better you, like gaining grit.
Yes.
Yes. So because you cannot go through grief and you come out the same. How you handle it would determine whether you come out a better person or worse than
Yes.
you were, or still the same person. But one thing for sure is after grieving, you'll never be the same. So during this period, like I said, it's a touching tale of love, loss, pain, and tenacity. During this period, you go through that roller coaster of emotions, whereby at some point you don't see the need of existence, you don't see the need of any other thing, because there's no loss worse than the loss of a baby. I almost lost myself. I
Mm,
lost faith. I lost trust in anyone, in God. But at some point, I had to go back in time to see where everything started. Because if you're not
mm,
careful during grief, you can lose your own family, your immediate
mm,
family. Yes, it was almost getting to that point, but I had to go back in time to look at where everything started. That means it started with myself and my husband. So in this book, I narrated our story, how the boys came in, talked about the boys and everything. In all, the book is to show that when you go through grief and you are not careful, you can lose every other thing, including the person you've already lost. Same as you can equally go back and trace and bring life back and bring glow back to that family.
mm,
And also, the book is here to raise awareness on pregnancy and infant loss, to let everyone know that every little life matters, that life doesn't have to have lived for centuries in order for it to have mattered. Whether you were just 1 week gestation or 42 weeks gestation, or you lost someone who was 100 years, that life was worthy. That life has to be treasured. Yes. And then in the book as well, I also, because when you are grieving, when you've lost a loved one, there are well meaning people out there. There are people who say things to you with the aim to console you, but sometimes they just choose the wrong words to use,
mm, mhm,
like telling you can always have another baby, or you have to be grateful you already have other children. It's not
mm,
really helpful. So I've also brought out this in the book. I pointed out those words which can be more hurtful during that period, and those words which can be soothing, which can actually make you feel loved, like, okay, I'm here. Yes, I can do this. I can help you in this way. Tell me about your baby. What is your baby's name? Including uh, when someone is sending you a Christmas card or an Easter card, if they include the baby's name in the card, that lets you know that this person really appreciates that my baby existed.
mm,
So all these things have been brought back into the book, have been written in the book as well. And also those coping mechanisms when you're going through grief, and then the stages of grief, how you can handle them. Because I used them, but I basically used my experience, how I felt through each stage, and what you can do in order not to dwell on each stage in order
mm,
to reach that stage of acceptance. And then a few of my friends also included their own stories with child loss. And then during the process of writing, I also discovered that there was something lying dormant in me, which is poetry. So I've written quite a few poems which are
oh
there
wow.
as well. Yeah. So it's basically to raise awareness on pregnancy
Mm,
and infant loss, letting people know that it's okay to grieve. It's okay to go through what you're going through, but do not let yourself be consumed by it. It can be sad, but they can. So the grit now actually shows that in with every difficult situation you go through, you can still smile. You can still use that sad experience and do something with it to help
yes,
somebody else out there.
exactly.
Mhm.
Definitely. And Grief to Grit, when would that be available and where can we get it
Okay,
when it comes out?
we are aiming for the 31st of October for the launch. But
Right.
as soon as it is out, I'll put the links on all my social media handles, and
Yes,
obviously in the group.
that would
Yeah,
be great. Yes, so we can access and, have a
yeah,
good read of the book and
yeah, and
support you.
yeah, obviously it will be through Amazon, or if there are people around, then they can have
Right.
an
So on
autograph
Amazon as well.
copy. Yeah.
Super. So on a final note, how can we get involved with your autism charity as well? CAN,
Okay.
Abilities Foundation UK, because
Yeah.
I think that's important to mention here as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Can Abilities Foundation. Yes, that came up as a result of our experiences with our son,
Mm,
who is 15 now, and he's autistic with other forms of disability. And then, so one of the first aim of that charity was to raise awareness on autism, to encourage love, understanding, and acceptance,
mm,
and also to support families and individuals in the community who have children with autism, and also
yeah.
supporting the families as well. So how to get involved? Actually, on the 3rd of October, we were supposed to have an autism awareness event, but
Right.
Mr. COVID
Yes.
will not allow us to have a face-to-face
Mm,
event. So at the moment, we are still in discussion to have to change that event to suit the circumstances at the moment, so which may be
mhm,
online activities. So how one can get involved is to talk with us when we have events. We put out the information out there. You can be a volunteer. Yeah, you can be a volunteer in the activities, or
mhm.
yeah, or you can partner with us, then we do our activities together.
That's great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And please put a link as well for that, charity
Okay.
in the blue as well.
The
And I'm
website,
sure,
yes,
yeah,
I'll put
yes,
the link of the website there. Hmm.
that would be great. Yes. So,
Hmm.
because we're here, Mums on the Glue, to support one another and to help each
Yeah.
other out. So
Hmm.
fantastic.
Yeah.
So, Clarice, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule
Yeah.
to be with us today, because I know
Thank
you're working. Thank
you.
you for joining the conversation. It was an immense pleasure having you here, and I'm sure lots of moms who are listening, have learned something and can relate, you
Yeah.
know, and your story can help someone else, bounce back as best they can.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
and mhm,
I really hope that someone learned something from the story. I mean, I believe so much in the power of sharing, because when you are sharing, you never know who you'll be inspiring out there. And when I'm
yeah,
sharing as well, I'm open to learning. So because I may have used a coping mechanism which is not entirely very helpful. So someone
mhm,
out there can still have another coping mechanism which they think is better. We are still learning. So sharing is helping people as
yeah,
well. You, when you share, you heal yourself, and then you help others, because you cannot help others when you've not healed completely.
mm.
So, yeah,
Yes, that's very true. And sharing is caring, as they
exactly.
say.
Hmm.
And just on a final note, we've got some. That's so true. Every life matters. To God most of all. We've
Hmm.
got a love heart. Thank you for sharing. The prayer hands, more prayer hands. Thanks. Thank you for sharing. God bless you,
Thank you
Clarice.
so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in, and have a lovely day. And we hope to have more of these sessions. So thank you, thank you,
Oh,
thank
yes.
you. Yeah.
Thank you, Nikki. Yeah, you have a
You're
nice day.
very welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.